All right, let's get started. So obviously the first thing we need to do to start using Blender is to download the program. If you already have Blender installed on your computer, you can go ahead and skip this part, but just know that for the purposes of this course, we will be using Blender 3.0. For the basics, it's okay if you're using an older version, as none of the basic functions of Blender have changed, but there may be some pretty big user interface differences, especially if you're using Blender 2.79 or earlier, so I don't really recommend using anything earlier than 2.8. So with all that said, all you need to do is open up the browser of your choice and navigate to blender.org. Once there, you will be met with this splash screen, and all you have to do is click here where it says download Blender. Now I'm using a Windows here, but Blender also runs on Mac. For the purposes of this course, I am only going to be demonstrating on Windows. So if you are using a Mac, just be cognizant of the shortcut differences. But it should be pretty much the same, just, using the command key instead of control and all that stuff that you're probably already used to. Okay, yeah, so just hit download for whatever system you are using. Give it a minute to finish downloading, and once it's done, open the file. It may take a second to compute space requirements. If you get a notice right here saying so, no worries, just let it do its thing. Once it's done, hit next. You'll get the EULA. Blender is a totally free and open source program, meaning that anyone can contribute to the development of it, but there's no company profiting from its sale or use. If you want to know more about that, you can read this, obviously. And there's also an About section on the official Blender website up here that can tell you more if you're interested in how it works. Anyway, accept the license agreement, hit next, and it will take you to this screen, which shows you how and where it's going to write files onto your machine. This will be the location it's installed in. I recommend just leaving it at the default unless you have some very specific reason you want it to be in a different location. Yeah, I'd suggest you just leave it here, and you hit next. And just last page here, go ahead and hit install and wait for that. All right, go ahead and click finish. And there should be a shortcut on your desktop, and it opened on my other screen. Drag that over. You'll be met with something along these lines. I just want to make a quick note before we wrap up the installation video on versions. So like I said, we are using Blender 3.0, 3.0.1 actually. But if for some reason you want or need an older version, those are available to you too. When you go to blender.org, you can navigate to the Downloads tab right here. And up in this top bar, you'll see something that says Previous Versions. Now you'll get this blurb here about how Blender had a major update between 2.7 and 2.8, and with that came a lot of UI changes. So 2.8 is pretty radically different from 2.79, which is why I don't recommend using it, as it won't match really the interface that we're using for this course. But if for whatever reason you wanted 2.79, you can get the official Blender 2.79b release by just clicking here, and it will take you to this sort of scary page, but don't panic. It is just a list of 2.79 versions, 2.79, 2.79a and b, and then for all the different operating systems that Blender can run on. You would just go here and find your operating system and click that to download and follow the same download instructions as we did. If for some reason you wanted an even earlier version, those are also available. Back on this Previous Versions page, you just go down here where it says download every version of Blender. Same thing, and they have every version of Blender available from 1.0 all the way to 3.0, which we will be using. You can select any of these and download them. If you want it to. But like I said, we will be using Blender 3.0, which is at the time of this recording, the most recent version of Blender. So once Blender is installed, it should have made a desktop shortcut, but either way, open the program. In the next video, we are going to actually start using Blender.